Good evening, Liberal Democrats. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope not to keep you too long. It's not even 5:30, so plenty of time to get in another canvas session after this. Lots of places nearby you can go to. I am so proud to be launching our manifesto tonight. So excited to be sharing with everyone our bold vision for our country. Because we deserve better than what is on offer from the two tired old parties. From the two men who only know how to rehash ideas from the past, whether that's the 1970s or the 1870s. For too many people, things aren't working as they should be. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, yet 1 in 5 of us in this country lives in poverty. Parents working full-time on the national living wage who are struggling to provide for their children. I'm not talking about trips to Disneyland. I'm talking about putting food on the table, paying for school uniforms, keeping the heating on. There are mothers, like the one in my constituency, who came to see me. Having escaped an abusive relationship, she'd got out. And then she faced a 5-week wait for her universal credit payment. Going without so her child could eat, and having to rely on the kindness of neighbours to invite them round for a hot meal. There are schools in this country shutting early on Fridays because they can't afford to pay their teachers. Head teachers who are having to ask parents to buy toilet roll. There are teenagers, like the one I met on a visit to a school recently, who have found themselves in deep crisis, feeling like they have no way out. And in that moment, the professional help they needed just wasn't there. And tonight, there are families sleeping in makeshift accommodation, whatever possessions they have left packed in plastic bags, their lives devastated by flooding. But instead of addressing these very real problems, from in-work poverty and inequality, funding for our schools, the mental health crisis, and the climate emergency, we have wasted the last 3.5 years talking about Brexit, on pursuing a path that we know will make all of these problems worse. There is no form of Brexit that will be good for the future of our country. It would put our jobs at risk, hurt our NHS, reduce our environmental protections, threaten workers' rights, and it would make us less safe. Whether Brexit is done by Boris Johnson or sorted by Jeremy Corbyn, they are both gambling with your future. Boris Johnson is collecting quite the set of celebrity endorsements. Britain's biggest racist, Tommy Robinson, has come out in his support. Just days after Boris Johnson struck a deal with Nigel Farage. But at least President Trump will be happy. His two friends coming together like he wanted. And clearly, President Trump's wish is Boris Johnson's command. Boris Johnson is deluded if he thinks he can negotiate a new trade deal with Europe by this time next year. And yet, he refuses to extend the transition period. He refuses to confirm that he won't crash us out of the European Union at the end of 2020. We don't know what reassurances he gave to Nigel Farage, but we do know this. Boris Johnson only cares about Boris Johnson. And he'll say and do whatever it takes to keep him in number 10. This is a man who lied to the Queen, who has lied to you before, and he's lying to you now. And 2 weeks into the general election, Jeremy Corbyn still won't tell you how he would campaign in a people's vote. The biggest question of the election, and he still won't answer it. Elections are about choosing the kind of country you want to build. A man who refuses to tell you what that looks like doesn't deserve your vote. Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn are living in a fantasy land if they think that Brexit is as simple as getting a deal through Parliament. If we leave the European Union, we are looking at years and years and years of endless trade negotiations. More time and energy wasted on getting something that will never be as good as what we already have. More time and energy wasted fulfilling the ideological fantasies of Nigel Farage so that Boris Johnson can play at being Prime Minister. More time and energy wasted that we could spend on improving everyone's lives. The solution is clear. If you want to put an end to this, if you want to stop Boris Johnson and his cabal of hardline Brexiteers, then you need to vote for the Liberal Democrats. We are the only party that can win a significant number of seats from the Conservatives and deprive them a majority. Over the last 2 weeks, we have set out our plans to build that brighter future. We've shared our plan to transform mental health services. Imagine going to the hospital with a broken arm and being told you need to travel hundreds of miles to get treatment. You'd be outraged, right? Now, imagine being a child in the midst of a mental health crisis and being made to travel hundreds of miles just so that you can get the support that you need. Separated from your friends and family, just when you need them the most. We shouldn't accept that that is just how it is. So the Liberal Democrats will invest £11 billion over the next 5 years, investing more money in talking therapies so people don't have to wait for months, and increasing the number of psychiatrists and specialist mental health nurses. It is about time that we treat mental health with the same urgency as physical health. Last year, the UK Parliament was the first in the world to declare a climate emergency. But the level and pace of action by the Conservative government has been woeful. And this week we saw reports that the Labour Party have dropped their 2030 net zero target that they simply hadn't thought through. No plan and no clue for how to save our planet. Totally uninspiring leadership when put in contrast to the thousands of children and teenagers who have taken to our streets to remind us that we are running out of time to save the planet. Like my friend's 12-year-old Evie, who has stood day after day on the road in her hometown in Holt at the side with a huge homemade sign that reads, "Treat a crisis like a crisis." People like Evie, those children, that's why the Liberal Democrats will deliver a 10-year emergency programme to cut greenhouse gas emissions straight away, so that in a decade, 80% of electricity will come from renewables, and so that we can lift millions of people out of fuel poverty by insulating their home in the next 5 years. Liberal Democrats, we are the only party with a radical and credible plan to tackle the climate emergency, and we will not leave our children with a boiling planet. And the state of our schools is just not good enough. The Conservatives have cut school funding to the bone, and children have paid the price, especially those with the most complex needs. Liberal Democrats will build a brighter future for every child. By stopping Brexit, we can spend the bulk of our Remain bonus on reversing school cuts, so that schools can hire 20,000 more teachers and pupils can leave school happy, healthy, and with the skills they need to succeed in life. Because our schools should be world-class, not forced to cut corners to balance budgets. That is why we are going to put our money where our heart is, in the future of our children, giving them the best start in life. And we will create a fairer economy so that everyone can live a secure, happy, and fulfilling life. We'll start by recognising that in a world that's rapidly changing, it's just not good enough to say that education stops after school or university. That's why we will give every adult a £10,000 skills wallet so they can keep learning, developing the skills that they need for the jobs of the future. Creating a fairer economy is also about reinventing the relationship between business and the communities on which they rely. I believe that business can be a force for good, that it can be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I am so proud that our biggest investment in this manifesto is to help parents. Currently, when those 9 months of paid parental leave are up, the cost of childcare just makes returning to work impossible for far too many people. We all know someone, a friend or family member, usually a woman, who has had to give up her career to take care of their family. They take time out of work for a couple of years until the current childcare help starts. And then if they have a second or third child, soon enough, they've lost out on 6 or 7 years' worth of work experience, opportunities, promotions, and pay rises. Every family is unique, and what works for one won't work for another. But we are deluded if we think that families have a real choice at the moment about how they balance work with taking care of their little ones. That's why we, Liberal Democrats, will help parents going back to work with free, high-quality childcare from when their child is 9 months old until their first day at school. 35 free hours a week, 48 weeks a year. And this isn't just about giving parents a proper choice. We don't think that any child should miss out on high-quality early years education because their parents can't afford it. If we want to close the academic gap between rich and poor children, we need to put our money where our mouth is and invest in those formative early years. We will transform childcare so that every family and every child can thrive. At this election, the future of our country is at stake. Don't let anyone tell you that it doesn't get better than Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn, that we are destined to stand alone in the world, that we must face the biggest challenges on our own, that Brexit is inevitable. None of that is a given. The future of our country is in our hands, and we can make a better choice. So if you want to stop Boris Johnson and stop Brexit, vote Liberal Democrat. If you want the £50 billion Remain bonus to improve your life, vote Liberal Democrat. If you want to nurture the bonds in our family of nations, vote Liberal Democrat. If you want to work with our friends to tackle the climate crisis, vote Liberal Democrat. If you want to build a brighter future, vote Liberal Democrat.